We often talk about in Kavanaugh how when you first meet Father Bob, you don't realize what a big deal he is at the university, because he will always just stop and say hello and always has time for a conversation. He learns students' names. He remembers them. He will at times entertain their ridiculous questions. I have seen him do this multiple times. And I think when it comes to someone who is in a leadership position, you want someone who can truly lead from a place where from being among the people, which is who Father Bob is.
So when I was in first grade, he was in second. There was a time there at the beginning that we lived close to the school, so we would walk home together, and our deal was to meet at the corner where there was a crossing guard. And the first few weeks there, I waited and found out later that he was visiting his former first grade teacher, Sister Carmel Marie.
He would be the first one to come in and the last one to go out. He was always inquisitive, and he wanted to see what was going on and how to learn better.
One of the things that impressed me most about Bob when I first met him was how centered he seemed for such a young person, how measured but deeply, deeply committed, particularly to justice and to some of the things I cared a lot about, but also unexpectedly very, very funny. I recall at the end of our novitiate year, he and I took on this silly little project, the lives of the rich and famous novices, and we did a little vignette on each of the guys we lived with through the novitiate year. And Bob had the greatest imitation of the guy who originally moderated that show, but it was hysterical. And he comes up with things that are just imaginative and very funny.
We'd go to our parish, Queen of All Saints, and then a few days later, maybe after Mass, he'd start in with preparing his Mass. And he would go through the whole Mass and have his own homily to us. He used bread to create the hosts and used my mom's dishcloths to cut a hole and put over his head to create the priest, what the priest wears.
I don't think I'll ever forget the day that it was announced that he was going to be the new president, because the hall went crazy.
Father Bob, Father Bob, Father Bob, Father Bob, Father Bob.
Like, there were people running up and down the halls, calling their parents, just being like, guys, Father Bob lives on my floor. The women of Kavanaugh started to feel like they single-handedly elected him into the presidency.
If you really want to get to know Father Bob, take him to a Cubs game, Chicago Cubs. Not only the Chicago Cubs, but Notre Dame sports. He goes just to see them.
We would fight over the TV as kids. Like, I wanted Sesame Street on. He wanted the Chicago Cubs game on WGN, so he could sit there, and he'd have the sound down, and he would set up a table, and he would know all the players, and he'd have like a pretend microphone like he's doing a radio broadcast. Our backyard was always a baseball diamond, like no grass. My mom could never grow grass, and the baking flour was always out because my brother was making all the baseball lines in the batter box. Like, if she would go to bake something, she's like, where's all the flour? It's all out there in the base lines.
Yeah, I call him my chauffeur. Because after I turned 90, I stopped driving, and he would come and get me and take me. But I said, after he became president, I think I lost my chauffeur. No, I really didn't, because he is so caring and thoughtful. He would continue, and he did, because he was just here a couple of weeks ago.
One of the qualities I love most about Bob is his commitment to his family. He accompanies his dad in his waning days, and most recently his mom. And his affection for them and for his sister and her family, but all of us in Holy Cross too have been so admirable, and I am every bit as convinced that he will share that same love for the Notre Dame family.
I think one thing the women and I need to get used to is that we now have to share Father Bob with other people.
Cheer, cheer for Notre Dame and cheer for Bob.
He's got a moral core that's strong. He'll make some good decisions, not always popular, but they'll be the best judgment he has.
And he will always be true to Notre Dame's mission.